Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. We're back with George Torres, Sonny Espinoza, Joseph Warren, and Lexi Law Dog, and me. We're talking about long-term care insurance, what it is, and how to use it. Sonny, I want to dispel some myths out there. Some people think they have long-term care insurance because they have Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say about that?
Well, under Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans, your benefit is you do have a benefit for some form of medical care for 100 days. Once that 100 days expires, then you no longer have any coverage. You've either got to have a long-term care contract to supplement the gap that you're going to have when those 100 days are gone. And a lot of people just think, well, I've got long-term care, everything will be fine. Well, if you go past that 100-day barrier, then you're in really bad shape.
And so will you, as a free service to the community, review a policy and let people know whether it's real or not?
Absolutely. That is something that is going to be part of the giving back a little bit for educate people as to why it's so important to have that long-term care contract at least updated. You may not be able to qualify for maybe updates if you haven't done anything for a while. So it is insurance, so you do have to medically qualify for some of the benefits.
And they need to know about it, right, George? Like when it kicks in and when they are allowed to use it. So let's talk about that. But first, I want to let Joseph tell his case study.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Those activities of daily living, right, is the definition.
ADLs,
Mm-hmm.
yes, sir.
And I'll let y'all go into that definition. But I have a client I was talking about that actually had a long-term care event that was planned for ahead. And most of the costs, actually, I think the vast majority of the cost is covered by their long-term care policy, paying out like $175 a day. But the process for them, just in case anyone has to deal with that and they can't meet those 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, is for 90 days, that was the elimination period on the policy. They had to make a record and keep a log and have receipts for all the expenses they were doing for having a nurse come to the house. And for 90 days, they had to do that because they had to make sure it was a real event. So the way, similar to disability insurance, if it doesn't last those 90 days and you get better, you recover, it's not going to pay out. And that protects the insurance company. And you can choose that date as well. So it's customizable, 90 days, 180 days. Maybe if you have more of an emergency fund, you could, lower the premiums in that way. But after, logging all that for 90 days, which was talking to them, it was stressful for them doing that because it's a totally new thing. He started paying them out.
I wanted to ask George about that because he's probably seen some people in stress. I've had some prospects come to me. They want to file a lawsuit because the long-term care insurance policy won't pay out. They say you're not eligible.
Yeah, and that's where it's important to give us a call because we can advise them with over almost 20 years of experience in doing this. Our staff is very well versed and can support and assist with that claims process. So just to initiate the claim, first of all, can be overwhelming for somebody. Obviously, if they're dealing with certain ailments, it's in its own. And there's really 3 kind of buckets or categories that would trigger that, especially in some of the older policies. It can be the 2 of the ADLs. So let's go over those real quickly so everybody understands what those are.
Yeah.
That's hands-on or standby assistance with somebody who needs help with bathing, with dressing, feeding, toileting, ambulation, transferring, and incontinent care.
Yeah.
So given those, if somebody just needs to be even close by, most of the policies will, if you have 2 of those, will automatically approve you or be justifiable for the need for it to start to be looking at now for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Given if somebody's got a short-term situation in recovery, and if they're not lasting at least within the elimination period or thereafter, then they may not qualify for it. But again, that's where we come in and we're documenting the visits that we're doing and in conjunction with the expense associated with that. The other 2 triggers for the policy will end up being if somebody has a cognitive impairment. So if we have a mini mental state exam or a COGS examination or some of the other various cognitive examinations that are out there and documentation to support that, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe in nature, that substantiates a claim.
Yeah.
And then the third part with this is going to be more in the older policies is a letter of medical necessity.
Mhm.
So if your clinician actually writes it to say, hey, for these particular reasons for safety, I'd like to submit a letter of medical necessity, and they sign it, and that can usually justify the need for that claim. But it's really important to know also that there's a variety of different contracts that are out there. There's a variety of different.
I'm glad you said that, George. That's perfect segment to what I was thinking. I wanted to ask you, Sonny, what are some of the factors that go into the cost of a policy? Because you can get a lot of different features and benefits on different policies.
Right.
Is there an affordable one for somebody out there?
Well, we sit down and we basically do a fact finder, and we basically ask them what they feel their needs would be as of today. We tell them what the average cost is on a per diem basis. In San Antonio, probably about $200 a day, which is I think is somewhat reasonable compared to some other cities. So we can crunch some numbers. I went ahead and crunch some numbers just so people would know what the basics would be. For a 65-year-old, a $200 a day benefit would be $241.92 for a male at 65. Along with his wife at that point, she's 61. Her premium would be $294.42. So for those, both the husband and wife to be covered would be about $586 a month for a $200 a day benefit. Now that's $200 a day benefit, whether it's in a nursing home or at home base. Okay. So they don't have to leave their home. Most people want to stay at home. And so we bring the benefit, we bring the people to their home. By the way, we'll pay this benefit, whether it's a relative, a friend, or a professional individual providing the service.
Yeah.
So that gives you the flexibility to keep the client in a good manner, a livable humor when this happens, because nobody wants to leave home. They want to be at home.
I like that, Sonny, because I've had some clients that said, well, my son or daughter will take care of me. Well, are they going to quit work to do that?
Yeah.
But if they can be paid from the long-term care insurance, that would be a positive. I have another type of client that doesn't want to be a burden. And so to have a paid caregiver like River City Home Care, that would benefit that type of client, the type of client that says, I want to keep my dignity. I don't want my children, giving me a bath. Have you met people like that, George?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll say that other client that lives afar, or the other relatives that no longer live here. So, and in addition to that, we talked about the sandwich generation. Those are caught between caring for their parents and caring for their young children, and caught in the middle. It's a dilemma there. There's a soccer game or going to take mom or dad to, an appointment, and your love for both of them is equal, but certainly you're just torn, and it creates a lot of stress, and sometimes really that strife sometimes within even a family between husband and wife. So there's a lot of challenges there, and that's where the benefit to having us come in and looking at those policies. So I think it merits mentioning that there's probably not enough credit given to the efforts of many tenured long-term care insurance agents that have been out there knocking on doors, really kind of pushing families to consider this. There's a lot of standing policies that are out within the community, and I don't want people to have regrets to say, hey, we could have had an opportunity to explore this benefit and it's too late, because that's really the worst thing that ever ends up happening. Like I said, they're enrolled, they're go into hospice care, they start to want to utilize their policy. They've got an elimination period. The elimination periods can be anywhere from, 0 elimination, 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 180 days, 90 days. It's all over the place depending on the contract, depending on how much premium they wanted to pay into it.
Mhm.
So let's just look at it. Let's just explore what benefits may be available, activate it, because the flip side of that might be there may be a waiver of premium. So if they actually start receiving, let's say hypothetically, this $200 per month per individual, do the math on that. They no longer have to pay the $500.
Yeah.
Now they're receiving an excess of close to $6,000 in benefit,
Mhm.
and they can utilize it towards their care because there's no place like home.
Sure, sure.
Joseph,
Yeah.
you do the financial roadmap,
Yeah.
and I know that you do retirement planning,
Yeah.
but do you also ask your clients how they want to be taken care of if they're disabled or incapacitated?
That comes up later, not during the financial roadmap, but when we have that comprehensive safety review where we talk about every risk, everything that worries the client. But that will often come up, situations like that. And sometimes just in doing people's roadmaps, they'll mention, I don't want to be a burden. Sometimes that's very common. Something that I hear with the older generation is, I don't want to be a burden to my kids. I want to be able to take care of myself, be independent, things like that.
Another question I like to ask them, I don't do financial planning, but I want to ask them about the inheritance. So I ask them, if you spent all your money on care and your children received no inheritance, would you be upset? And some people say, no, that's my money. I'm going to spend it on me if I want to.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other people that say, I worked hard. I woke up early. I stayed late. I didn't go on vacation. I put all of my energy into my business or building a career.
Yeah.
And yes, I would be upset if my kids didn't get anything. And so we'll talk about legacy after this break. Stay tuned.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trusts, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.